I stood at the altar on our vow renewal day and watched my wife tell 200 people, including our twin daughters, that I was always her second choice, that she'd settled for me, and that she was finally choosing real love with her ex. What she didn't know was that I'd spent 6 months building a case with a private investigator, and the folder in my car contained proof of 16 separate affairs, financial fraud, and text messages planning my accidental death. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I exposed everything right there in front of everyone. The ceremony was supposed to start at 4. We'd chosen the same vineyard where we got married 12 years earlier, Rolling Hills Estate, with its rows of grapevines cascading down toward the valley and that massive oak tree standing alone on the hill. That's where Jennifer and I first met, under that oak, where I proposed, where we said our first vows. I thought renewing them would mean something. The chairs were set up in neat rows, white fabric tied with lavender ribbon. 200 guests. Jennifer's parents, Richard and Helen, sat in the front row, Helen dabbing at her eyes before anything had even started. My best friend Derek stood beside me as best man, same as 12 years ago. Our daughters, Lily and Emma, 11 years old, sat with Helen, fidgeting in their matching purple dresses. The officiant, a woman named Carol, who'd done our original wedding, smiled at me. Nervous? Always am, I said. But I wasn't nervous about the vows. I was watching Jennifer. She stood 30 feet away in the vineyard's stone cottage, visible through the French doors. Her dress was cream-colored, simpler than her wedding gown, but elegant. She kept checking her phone. The screen lit up her face every 20 seconds. She'd glance at it, thumb hovering, then slide it back into her small clutch purse. Derek leaned close. You good? Yeah. You sure? Because you look like... I'm good. The phone buzzed again in her clutch. Even from here, I could see the purse vibrating against the windowsill where she'd set it down. She grabbed it, looked at the screen, and this time I saw her lips move. Just one word, silent, mouthed at the phone. Finally, the musician started playing. That was the cue. Jennifer walked out of the cottage, holding her bouquet of white roses and lavender, the same flowers from our wedding. Helen stood up crying. Half the guests turned to watch Jennifer walk down the aisle between the chairs. She looked beautiful. That's what made it worse. She reached the altar. Carol smiled at both of us. We are gathered here today to witness Marcus and Jennifer as they renew the vows they made 12 years ago. Marriage is a journey, and today we celebrate that journey continuing. If you've ever felt something was wrong but ignored your gut, leave "I should have listened" in the comments. Sometimes our instincts know before we're ready to face it. Jennifer's phone buzzed again in her clutch. She'd set it down on a small table beside the altar, the same table that held our original wedding program, now framed, and 2 unlit candles we were supposed to light together as part of the ceremony. Carol continued, Marcus and Jennifer have prepared their own vows. Jennifer, would you like to begin? Actually, Jennifer said, I need to say something first. Carol blinked. Oh, of course. Jennifer reached for the microphone, a small wireless one Carol wore clipped to her dress. Carol looked confused but handed it over. Jennifer held the microphone looking out at the 200 faces, at her parents, at my daughters, at me. I need to tell you all something I should have said 12 years ago. The vineyard went quiet. Even the wind seemed to stop. Marcus is a good man, Jennifer said. Her voice was steady, practiced. He's dependable, he's loyal, he's safe. And 12 years ago, when I was 26 and scared and didn't know what I wanted, safe felt like enough. Helen's hand went to her mouth. But I was lying to myself, Jennifer continued. And I was lying to Marcus, because Marcus was my backup plan. The words landed like stones in water, ripples of gasps. Derek's hand gripped my shoulder. I was in love with someone else, Jennifer said. His name is Cameron. We dated for 3 years before Marcus. Cameron was everything: passion, fire, the kind of love that makes you feel alive. But he wasn't ready to settle down, so I broke it off. And I met Marcus, and Marcus was ready. My daughters were staring at me. Emma's face was crumpling. Lily sat frozen. I convinced myself I'd made the right choice, Jennifer said. I convinced myself that the safe choice was the mature choice. But I've spent 12 years feeling like I settled, like I chose the life I thought I should have instead of the life I actually wanted. She turned to look at me. Her eyes were dry. Marcus, I'm sorry. You deserved someone who chose you first, who chose you because they couldn't imagine anyone else, and I can't keep pretending that person is me. Richard stood up from his seat. Jennifer, what are you? She held up her hand. I'm not finished. She turned back to the crowd, and then she looked toward the back row where a man I didn't recognize sat alone. Tall, dark hair, leather jacket at a formal ceremony. Cameron, Jennifer said into the microphone, stand up. He stood. He was smiling. Cameron came back into my life 8 months ago, Jennifer said, and I remembered what real love feels like. Not safe, not convenient, real. Derek's grip on my shoulder tightened. I heard Helen make a sound like a wounded animal. So I'm asking you now, Jennifer said, in front of everyone who matters to us. She walked away from the altar, walked down the aisle toward Cameron. The crowd parted. She stopped in front of him. Cameron, will you marry me? He laughed, actually laughed. Hell yes. They kissed in front of 200 people at my vow renewal. Jennifer turned back to face me, still holding the microphone. I hope someday you'll understand, Marcus. I hope you'll forgive me. But I had to choose myself. I had to choose real love. She set the microphone down on an empty chair and took Cameron's hand. I stood at the altar. The officiant stood frozen beside me. Derek started to move toward Jennifer, but I put my hand on his chest. Don't, I said quietly. Everyone was staring at me, at Jennifer and Cameron heading toward the parking lot, at my daughters, both crying now in Helen's arms. I felt nothing, no rage, no tears, no shouting, just a strange, cold clarity. I'll be right back, I said. I walked down the aisle, past the guests, past Jennifer's parents, past the photographer who was still holding her camera, uncertain whether to keep filming. I walked to the parking lot, to my car, a gray Subaru Outback parked in the shade of a sycamore tree. I opened the trunk. Inside was a blue folder, legal size, worn edges. I'd opened it so many times in the last 6 months that the corners were soft. The label on the front, written in my handwriting, said evidence. 237 pages. I picked it up. It was heavy, not just the paper, the weight of 6 months of truth. I walked back to the ceremony site. Jennifer and Cameron had stopped at the edge of the vineyard. Cameron was on his phone. Jennifer was laughing, her head thrown back. The guests were standing now, murmuring, confused. Some were leaving, most were staying, not sure what to do. I walked back to the altar. Derek saw the folder. His eyes widened. Marcus, what? Everyone, please sit down, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise. People sat. Jennifer turned around, saw me holding the folder. Her smile faltered. Jennifer made an announcement, I said. Now I'd like to make one. She started walking back toward me. Marcus, there's nothing to say. I'm leaving. This is over. You're right, I said. It is over, but there are a few things these people should know first. I opened the folder. The first page was a photograph, printed on photo paper in color, crystal clear. I held it up so the guests in the front rows could see. This was taken 11 months ago, November 3rd. Does everyone see who that is? The photo showed Jennifer in a hotel room. She was kissing a man who wasn't me. The timestamp in the corner from a private investigator's camera read 9:47 p.m. Helen made a choking sound. Jennifer lunged forward. Give me that. Derek stepped between us. Don't. This is from the Hampton Inn on Route 7, I continued. Jennifer told me she was at a conference that weekend, a work conference for her marketing firm, 3-day seminar in Philadelphia. She sent me photos of the conference room, of her name tag, of the hotel lobby. I flipped to the next page. Another photo. Different hotel room, different man. This one is from August 14th, Holiday Inn, downtown. She told me she was visiting her college roommate. Another page, another photo. June 2nd, Marriott by the airport. She said she was helping her mother with wedding planning for her cousin. I kept flipping. The photos piled up on the small altar table beside our framed wedding program. Guests were standing now, craning their necks to see. 16 affairs, I said. Over 7 years, some lasting a few months, some just one night. I have photos, timestamps, hotel receipts, text messages, and witness statements from staff who remembered her, all collected over the last 6 months by a private investigator named Sarah Chen, who's very, very good at her job. Cameron had stopped smiling. He was staring at Jennifer. Richard collapsed into his chair. But the affairs weren't the worst part, I said. Page 89 shows something else. Financial documents she forged in my name. I pulled out a stack of papers clipped together. Bank statements, loan applications, transfer records. 3 months ago, Jennifer took out a loan for $42,000, I said. She forged my signature on the application. She used our house as collateral. The money went into an account I didn't know existed, an account in her name only. She transferred another $68,000 from our joint savings. She also changed the deed to our house, removing my name using a forged power of attorney document. I held up the power of attorney. See this signature? It looks like mine, almost, but I loop my M differently. She practiced it. There are 3 attempts on the back of the page, like homework. Jennifer's lawyer, someone I recognized from her firm, sitting 8 rows back, was standing now, slowly backing toward the parking lot. She also, I continued, took out a life insurance policy on me 9 months ago. $800,000. I didn't sign anything. She forged that signature too. The insurance company confirmed it when I contacted them 3 weeks ago. The vineyard was silent except for Helen's crying. And on page 134, I said, there's something that made me call the police 3 days ago. Text messages between Jennifer and Cameron about the plan. I pulled out printouts of text messages, long threads, dated and time stamped. Would you like me to read them? I asked. Or should I just play the audio recording? I pulled out my phone, connected it to the portable speaker Derek had brought for the music. Jennifer's voice came through the speaker, a phone call recorded. He always drives too fast in winter. They'll rule it an accident. Cameron's voice. When? December is perfect. Icy roads. Insurance pays double for accidental death. I stopped the recording. Cameron's face had gone white. He took a step back from Jennifer. There are 14 more calls like that, I said, and 63 text messages. They discuss timing, method, how to make it look accidental, how to split the insurance money, how to frame it so no one would suspect. I looked at Jennifer. She was frozen, her mouth open. 2 police cars are pulling into the driveway right now, I said. I contacted Detective Sarah Morrison of the State Police 3 days ago. She listened to the recordings. She reviewed the evidence. She got warrants for fraud, forgery, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit murder. The police cars came up the gravel driveway, lights flashing but no sirens. Jennifer ran. She actually ran, heels clicking on the stone path, toward the back of the vineyard. Derek didn't move to stop her. He didn't need to. 3 guests stood up and blocked her path. One of them was her own brother. The officers got out of their cars. Detective Morrison walked toward me. She was a short woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Mr. Hayes? That's her, I said, pointing at Jennifer. Morrison nodded to the other officer. "Jennifer Hayes, you're under arrest." Jennifer screamed. It wasn't words, just a sound, high and sharp and desperate. They read her rights. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Someone was filming on their phone. The photographer had started taking pictures again. They put handcuffs on Jennifer's wrists. The metal clicked shut over the delicate bracelets she wore. Cameron tried to leave. Morrison stopped him. "Mr. Cameron Foster, we need to ask you some questions. You're not under arrest, but you're not leaving either." As they led Jennifer toward the patrol car, my daughters ran out from the Vineyard's cottage where someone had taken them. Lily was holding something in her hand, a piece of paper. She ran to me. "Daddy, we found this in Mommy's bag. It has our names on it." It was an envelope, cream stationery, Jennifer's handwriting in blue ink. "For Lily and Emma, when Daddy goes to heaven." I held the envelope. The paper was thick, expensive stationery, the kind Jennifer saved for important occasions. Her handwriting covered the front in careful loops. My hands were shaking. Detective Morrison approached. "Mr. Hayes, that might be evidence." "It's addressed to my daughters," I said. "I'm opening it." She nodded, "with witnesses present." Derek stood on one side of me, Helen on the other. Richard sat in a chair, his face gray. The girls stood close, Lily gripping my jacket, Emma's hand in mine. I opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of the same cream stationery, folded in thirds. I unfolded it. Jennifer's handwriting filled the page, dated 2 weeks ago. "My sweet girls," I read aloud. My voice didn't sound like my own. "Daddy loved you so much. His accident wasn't anyone's fault. These things happen. Cars lose control, roads are slippery, and sometimes the people we love leave us when we're not ready. But Daddy wouldn't want you to be sad forever. He'd want you to remember how much he loved you, and he'd want you to be happy." I stopped, swallowed. "When enough time has passed," the letter continued, "you're going to meet someone very special to me. His name is Cameron, and he makes me smile the way Daddy used to make me smile when we first met. I hope you'll give him a chance. I hope you'll understand that sometimes adults need to choose happiness, even when it's hard. I'll always be your mom, and nothing will change that. But families can grow and change, and that's okay. Daddy would want us to be happy. Love always, Mom." Helen was sobbing. Richard had his head in his hands. Derek's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. Emma looked up at me. Her eyes were red, mascara from the ceremony. She'd begged to wear a little, smeared down her cheeks. "Daddy, were you going to die?" I couldn't lie to her. "Your mother and Cameron were planning to hurt me," I said quietly. "But they didn't. I found out, and I stopped it." "But you could have died?" Lily asked. Her voice was small. "Yes," I said, "I could have." Emma's face crumpled. She pressed into me, and I held her. Lily wrapped her arms around both of us. If you've ever had to protect children from a painful truth, or if you were that child who knew more than the adults thought, share your story. How did you handle it? What do you wish someone had told you? Detective Morrison took photographs of the letter with her phone. "Mr. Hayes, I need to take this as evidence. It supports premeditation, but I'll make sure you get a copy." I handed it to her. The envelope felt lighter without it. From the patrol car, Jennifer was screaming, Marcus, you can't do this. I'm their mother. You can't turn them against me." Morrison walked toward the car. "Ma'am, you need to stop talking." "Marcus." Jennifer's voice was ragged. "Please, think about the girls." I didn't look at her. I looked at my daughters instead. "Let's go inside." Helen took their hands. "Come on, sweethearts, let's get you some water." As they walked toward the cottage, Derek turned to me. "You okay?" "No." "Fair." Morrison came back. "We're taking her to county lockup. We still need to question Mr. Foster. He's claiming he didn't know about the murder plot, says he thought it was just talk." "It wasn't just talk," I said. "We know, but his phone records and messages might help us prove how deep he was in it. He's willing to cooperate. Why? Morrison glanced toward Cameron, who sat on a bench near the patrol car, his head in his hands. Because he just realized the woman he thought he was having an affair with was actually planning a murder, and he's terrified. People get cooperative when they're terrified. 20 minutes later, they'd taken Jennifer away. The guests had all left, murmuring condolences and shock. The vineyard staff was dismantling the ceremony setup, the chairs, the altar, the flowers. Cameron sat on the bench, a uniformed officer standing nearby. Morrison had finished questioning him and gestured for me to approach. "Mr. Hayes, Cameron Foster has something to say to you." Cameron looked up. His eyes were red. "I didn't know," he said. "About the murder thing. I swear to God I didn't know." "But you knew about the affair," I said. "Yeah, I knew about that. Jennifer reached out to me 8 months ago. On Facebook, we started talking, then meeting. She said she'd made a mistake marrying you, that she'd never stopped loving me, that she wanted out but didn't know how." "And you believed her?" He nodded. "She said you'd fight a divorce, that you'd try to take the kids. She said she needed a plan." "What plan?" "To leave," he said. "After today, after the vow renewal, she said doing it publicly would make it harder for you to paint her as the bad guy. That if she left at a ceremony in front of everyone, people would see it as brave instead of cruel." "And the money?" Cameron's face twisted. "She said she'd been putting money aside, that it was her savings. I didn't know she was stealing from you. I didn't know about the loans or the forged documents. And I sure as hell didn't know she was planning to..." He stopped, swallowed. "Jesus Christ, I didn't know." Morrison held up her phone. "Mr. Foster gave us access to his text threads with Jennifer. There's a separate thread, different from the ones Mr. Hayes has, where Jennifer is much more calculated. She told Cameron different things than she was telling you in the joint messages." "She played both of us," Cameron said. "She was telling me you were abusive, that you controlled her money, that you threatened to take the kids if she left. And I believed her because I wanted to, because I'm an idiot." "Did you love her?" I asked. He looked at me. "I thought I did. Now I don't know what was real." Morrison stepped forward. "Mr. Foster is willing to testify against Jennifer about everything she told him, everything she planned. In exchange, we're not charging him with conspiracy. He wasn't part of the murder plot. The messages prove that. But he was part of the fraud scheme. He knew she'd taken money, even if he believed her story about it being her own savings." "What does that mean?" Cameron asked. "Accessory after the fact, financial fraud. You're looking at probation and restitution." Cameron nodded slowly. Okay, I'll testify, whatever you need." He looked at me. "I know you have no reason to believe me, but I'm sorry. I really thought I was helping her escape something bad. I didn't know I was helping her plan something evil." Morrison gave me a card. "We'll need you to come to the station tomorrow to give a full statement. Bring the folder, all of it." "I will." As they led Cameron away, not arrested but not free, Derek came back from the cottage. "The girls are with Helen. They're asking for you." I walked to the cottage. Inside, Lily and Emma sat on a velvet couch, still in their purple dresses. Helen had given them cookies they weren't eating. I sat between them. They leaned into me. "Is Mommy going to jail?" Emma asked. "Yes." "For how long?" "I don't know yet, but probably a long time." "Are we going to see her?" I didn't answer right away. "Do you want to?" Lily shook her head immediately. Emma hesitated, then shook hers too. "You might change your mind later," I said, "and that's okay, but for right now she can't see you. The police won't allow it." "Good," Lily whispered. We sat in silence. Helen moved around the cottage kitchen, making tea no one would drink. Richard came in. He looked 20 years older than he had that morning. Marcus, I need to say something. Okay. We didn't know, he said. Helen and we didn't know any of this. If we had, I know. We love those girls, he said, nodding toward Lily and Emma. We love you. You're our son-in-law, and no matter what Jennifer did, that doesn't change. If you need anything, I need to make sure they're safe, I said. That's all I need. The next morning, I was at the courthouse at 8 a.m. My lawyer, Patricia Valdez, a woman I'd hired 3 months earlier when I'd first understood how bad this was, met me at the entrance. The emergency custody hearing is at 9, she said. Jennifer's parents posted bail last night. My stomach dropped. What? $200,000. She's out. She has an ankle monitor and a restraining order that says she can't contact you or the girls, but she's out. Can she get custody? Not a chance, Patricia said, but her lawyer is going to try. That's why we're here. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Barbara Trent. She read through the emergency petition Patricia had filed, pre-filed actually 2 weeks ago, waiting for the right moment. Jennifer sat at the defense table with her lawyer, a slick man in a gray suit named Thomas Brenner. She'd changed clothes, wore a modest navy dress, no makeup, hair pulled back. She looked like someone's grieving mother. Judge Trent looked at me. Mr. Hayes, you're requesting full temporary custody of Lily and Emma Hayes, ages 11. You're citing domestic fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit murder as grounds for removing the children from the mother's care. Yes, Your Honor. Mrs. Hayes, your lawyer has filed a counter motion claiming these charges are fabricated and that your husband is attempting to alienate your children using false criminal allegations. Brenner stood. Your Honor, my client maintains her innocence. These charges have not been proven. She's entitled to a presumption of innocence, and that extends to custody matters. Judge Trent looked at him. Mr. Brenner, there are 14 felony charges filed against your client by the district attorney's office. There's recorded evidence, forensic accounting, witness testimony. This isn't a he said, she said. The evidence is circumstantial. The evidence, Patricia said standing, includes recorded phone calls where Mrs. Hayes discusses killing her husband and making it look like an accident. The evidence includes forged documents with her husband's signature. The evidence includes a letter Mrs. Hayes wrote to her children explaining their father's death before he died. That's not circumstantial. That's premeditated murder conspiracy and emotional abuse of minors. Judge Trent held up her hand. I've read the police reports. I've listened to excerpts of the recordings. Mrs. Hayes, do you have anything to say? Jennifer stood. Her voice was soft. Your Honor, I love my daughters. I would never do anything to hurt them. My husband and I were having marital difficulties. I made mistakes. I had affairs. I'm not proud of that. But I never actually intended to hurt Marcus. The conversations he recorded were taken out of context. Cameron and I were angry. We said things we didn't mean. It was venting. It wasn't a plan. You wrote a letter to your children about their father's accidental death, Judge Trent said, 2 weeks before any accident occurred. How do you explain that? Jennifer's face crumpled. I don't know. I was in a dark place. I was imagining worst-case scenarios. I have anxiety. I write things to process my feelings. It wasn't meant to be an actual plan. Your Honor, Patricia said, we'd like to submit a psychological evaluation Mr. Hayes had done voluntarily 3 weeks ago. It shows no signs of manipulation, vindictiveness, or parental alienation. We'd also like to submit school records showing Mrs. Hayes missed 70% of parent-teacher conferences over the last 3 years, and a statement from the girls' school counselor noting that both children have expressed fear of their mother in recent sessions. Judge Trent reviewed the documents. The courtroom was silent except for the rustle of paper. Finally, she spoke. Temporary full custody is granted to Mr. Hayes. Mrs. Hayes, you are prohibited from contact with the minor children until a full custody evaluation can be completed. That includes phone calls, messages, letters, and third-party contact. Supervised visitation may be considered after the criminal trial, depending on the outcome. This court will reconvene in 90 days to review the arrangement. She brought down her gavel. Jennifer made a sound like a wounded animal. Brenner put his hand on her shoulder, but she shook it off. "You're taking my children," she screamed at me. "You're turning them against me?" Judge Trent's voice was sharp. "Mrs. Hayes, one more outburst and you'll be held in contempt." "How did you know to prepare all this?" Jennifer's voice broke. "How did you know?" I didn't answer. I just walked out of the courtroom. Here's my question for you. Should I have told Jennifer privately and divorced quietly, or was exposing her publicly the right call? Comment private if you'd have kept it quiet, or public if you'd have done what I did. I'm curious where you stand. Outside, Patricia handed me copies of the custody order. You did the right thing. Then why does it feel like this? Because you're human, she said. And because even when someone deserves justice, it doesn't feel clean. That 6-month investigation was the loneliest time of my life. I couldn't tell anyone except my lawyer and one friend. If you've ever carried a secret that heavy, something you couldn't share until the time was right, you know how it changes you. Drop A if you've been there. I told Derek I needed to go home. He drove me. The girls were at Helen and Richard's house. They'd agreed to watch them until the hearing was over. Derek made coffee. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I discovered the first clue 6 months earlier. "I need to tell you how it started," I said. "You don't have to." "I need to say it out loud." Derek nodded. 6 months ago, I said, I was looking through our credit card statement, something I did every month just to make sure everything looked right, and there was a charge I didn't recognize. $347, Hampton Inn, Route 7, November 3rd. The first hotel? Yeah, I called Jennifer. She was at work. I said, "Hey, what's this charge from the Hampton Inn?" And she didn't miss a beat. She said, "Oh, that's from the marketing conference I told you about. Remember, Philadelphia? They charged our card by mistake, but it's being reimbursed." And I said, "Okay, because why wouldn't I?" I took a breath. But something felt wrong, so I looked at her calendar. The conference dates she'd told me, they didn't match the charge date, off by 3 days. So I called the Hampton Inn, asked if they had a record of a Jennifer Hayes checking in on November 3rd. They did. Room 412. She checked in at 3 p.m. and checked out the next morning at 11 a.m. Derek was quiet. "I hired Sarah Chen the next day," I said. "Private investigator, former cop. I gave her all our bank statements, Jennifer's calendar, her travel schedule. I said, I need to know if my wife is having an affair." And Sarah said, "I'll find out." How long did it take? 2 weeks. Sarah followed Jennifer to a hotel, watched her meet a man, took photos, showed me. I pulled out my phone, opened the photos I'd saved from Sarah's first report, the first image of Jennifer kissing someone who wasn't me. "I threw up," I said, when I saw the photos. Literally threw up in Sarah's office. Jesus, Marcus. But Sarah kept digging. She found more hotels, more men, 16 total over 7 years. Some of them lasted months, some were just one night, and then she started looking at the money. The fraud. Yeah. Jennifer had been careful, but not careful enough. Sarah found the loan applications, the forged signatures, the transfers, and then 2 months ago, Sarah found something else. She'd gotten access to Jennifer's phone records, legally because I'm on the family plan. And she saw calls to Cameron Foster, lots of calls, so Sarah started recording them. How? Phone company cooperation. When fraud and identity theft are involved, you can get court orders. Sarah had connections. She got the recordings. And that's when we heard Jennifer and Cameron talking about the accident. Derek closed his eyes. The murder plot. December. I said. Icy roads. She was going to do it in December, another month and a half. Why did you wait? Derek asked. Why not go to the police immediately? Because I wanted everyone to know, I said. Not just the cops, not just the court, everyone, her parents, her friends, the people who'd think I was the bad guy for divorcing her. I wanted them to see exactly what she was. So you planned the vow renewal? I'd suggested it a year ago, I said, out of the blue. Told Jennifer I wanted to renew our vows for our 12-year anniversary. She loved the idea, said it would make us feel real again. And I knew that if I exposed her there in front of everyone who mattered, she couldn't spin it. She couldn't make herself the victim. That's cold, man. Yeah, I said. It is. We sat in silence. The folder in your car, Derek said. You had it ready. 6 months of evidence, 237 pages, every photo, every bank statement, every text message, indexed, organized, ready. What happened to the woman who did this? Derek asked quietly. The Jennifer we knew, your wife, the mother of your kids. I don't know, I said. Maybe she was always like this. Maybe I never really knew her. Or maybe she changed and I missed it. Which do you think? I thought about it. It's about the woman I'd married 12 years ago, young, bright, laughing under the oak tree. The woman who'd held my hand during Lily's birth and cried with joy. The woman who'd made me coffee every morning for a decade. I think, I said slowly, she was always capable of this, but I gave her reasons not to do it, until I didn't. That's not on you. I know, but it feels like it is. The trial preparation took 3 months. District Attorney Michelle Reyes was prosecuting personally. Fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, identity theft, forgery, 14 counts total. The evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the forged signatures, the forensic accounting showing Jennifer had stolen over $110,000. Cameron's testimony, the hotel staff, the affair partners who'd come forward, but the worst part was what happened 6 weeks before trial. The custody evaluation required the girls to speak with a child psychologist. Her name was Dr. Ellen Shaw. She met with Lily and Emma separately over 4 sessions each. I wasn't allowed in the room. I sat in the waiting area, reading magazines I didn't absorb, listening to the clock tick. When Dr. Shaw emerged after the final session, she asked to speak with me. Mr. Hayes, I need to share some of my findings. They'll be part of the custody report. Okay. Your daughters are remarkably perceptive, she said, and they've been aware of more than you realized. She pulled out drawings the girls had made during therapy. Lily had drawn a picture of our family, me, Jennifer, Emma, Lily, but she'd drawn 2 versions of Jennifer, one smiling, labeled Home Mommy, and one frowning, labeled Phone Mommy. Emma had drawn a picture of our house. Inside the house was me and the girls. Outside the house, separate, was Jennifer holding hands with a stick figure labeled Cameron. They knew, I said, not consciously, but yes, they sensed it. Lily's diary, she gave me permission to share this, has an entry from 4 months ago. Dr. Shaw handed me a photocopy. Lily's handwriting, neat and careful. I love Mommy, but I don't think Mommy loves Daddy. She smiles different when he's gone, her real smile. I don't want to make Daddy sad, but I think he knows. Emma cried last night because she heard them fighting. Mommy said Daddy was in the way. I don't know what she means. I'm scared. I couldn't speak. Your daughters are going to need therapy, Dr. Shaw said gently. Long term, they've experienced emotional trauma, but they're also resilient, and they trust you. That's what matters. The custody hearing 3 weeks later was brief. Dr. Shaw testified. Read parts of Lily's diary aloud in family court. Showed the drawings. Jennifer's lawyer tried to argue that the girls had been coached, that I'd influenced them. Judge Trent shut him down. Mr. Brenner, these entries are dated before Mr. Hayes discovered the affair, before the investigation. Your client was overheard by her daughter saying her husband was in the way. That's consciousness of guilt. Full custody granted, permanently. Jennifer would be allowed supervised visitation only after serving any prison sentence and only if Dr. Shaw approved. Jennifer sat at the defense table, her face blank, empty, like something inside her had shut off. As they led her out of the courtroom, she turned and mouthed something to me. Derek saw it too. We both knew what she'd said. You'll pay. The trial began on a Monday in February, 8 months after the vow renewal. The courthouse was packed. Jennifer's case had made the news. Woman plots husband's murder at vow renewal ceremony. Local stations ran the story for weeks. I sat in the front row of the gallery, Derek beside me, Sarah Chen, the private investigator, 2 rows back. Helen and Richard sat on the opposite side of the courtroom. They'd written a letter to the prosecutor supporting my case, supporting their granddaughters. They hadn't spoken to Jennifer since the arrest. Jennifer sat at the defense table in a gray pantsuit. Her hair was shorter, no makeup. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. District Attorney Michelle Reyes stood to give her opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a case about betrayal, about greed, and about a woman who decided her husband's life was worth less than her freedom and an insurance payout. Over the next 2 weeks, you'll hear evidence that Jennifer Hayes conducted 16 extramarital affairs over 7 years. That she forged her husband's signature on loan documents, stealing over $110,000. That she plotted with her lover to stage her husband's death as an accident so she could collect $800,000 in life insurance. And that she wrote a letter to her children explaining this accident before it happened. The evidence is not circumstantial. It's recorded, documented, undeniable. Thomas Brenner, Jennifer's lawyer, stood for his opening. The prosecution wants you to believe Jennifer Hayes is a monster. But what you'll actually see is a woman in an unhappy marriage who made mistakes. Yes, she had affairs. She admits that. Yes, she took money from joint accounts, money she believed she had a right to. But conspiracy to murder? That requires intent. That requires a genuine plan. And what the prosecution has are angry words between frustrated lovers, venting, fantasizing, not planning. Jennifer Hayes never intended to hurt anyone. She was trying to escape a controlling relationship, and her husband has twisted her words into something sinister to destroy her. The trial lasted 12 days. The prosecution called 32 witnesses. Hotel staff who remembered Jennifer checking in with different men. The forensic accountant who traced every stolen dollar. Sarah Chen, who testified about the 6-month investigation. Cameron Foster, who broke down on the stand describing how Jennifer had manipulated him. She told me Marcus was abusive. Cameron testified, his voice shaking. She showed me bruises she said he gave her. I found out later she'd done them herself. Pressed hard enough to leave marks, she photographed them and sent them to me as proof. I thought I was rescuing her. The defense tried to paint me as obsessive, controlling. They claimed I'd fabricated the evidence, that I'd coached Cameron, that the recordings were edited, but then Reyes played the full, unedited recordings in court. 47 minutes of Jennifer and Cameron discussing my death in detail. Jennifer's voice filled the courtroom. December 15th, there's a curve on Route 9 right after the bridge. Black ice forms there every year. If his car went off the road there into the ravine, they'd rule it accidental. We just need to make sure his brakes had a problem. Something subtle. Cameron's voice. How do we do that? Jennifer. I've been researching. Brake fluid lines can be cut, just a small cut. They fail slowly. By the time he's on that curve, he won't be able to stop. The car goes over. Done. The jury sat frozen. 2 jurors were crying. The defense had no response to that. On day 10, they called their only witness, a psychologist who'd evaluated Jennifer. He testified that she suffered from anxiety and depression, that she'd been on medication, that the recording showed someone in psychological distress, not someone genuinely planning a crime. Reyes destroyed him on cross-examination. Doctor, in your evaluation, did Mrs. Hayes tell you she'd forged documents, that she'd stolen money, that she'd written a letter to her children about their father's death before he died? No, she didn't mention those details. So your evaluation was based on incomplete information. I can only evaluate based on what the patient tells me. Then your testimony is worthless. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They found Jennifer guilty on all 14 counts. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, 7 counts of fraud, 3 counts of forgery, 2 counts of identity theft, 1 count of insurance fraud. When the verdict was read, Jennifer didn't react. She just stared at the table. Sentencing happened 2 weeks later. I was allowed to give a victim impact statement. I'd written it by hand, in pen, 3 pages. The judge needed to see where my handwriting shook. Page 3 had a water stain where I'd cried while writing it. I stood at the podium, read slowly. Your Honor, Jennifer Hayes was my wife for 12 years. She was the mother of my children. I trusted her with my life, literally. And she decided my life was worth $800,000 and her freedom. She decided our daughters would be better off without a father than without her lover. She wrote them a letter explaining my death before I died. She made them draw pictures for my funeral. She told them I'd want them to be happy with Cameron. She weaponized our children's love against me. My voice broke. I stopped, breathed. But what haunts me most is this. I don't know when she changed. Was she always capable of this? Did I miss the signs? Did I fail to see the person I married? Or did she become this person slowly over years and I was too close to notice? I don't know. And I'll never know, because the Jennifer I thought I knew never existed. The woman sitting in this courtroom is a stranger who wore my wife's face. I looked at Jennifer. She was staring at me, her eyes dry. My daughters asked me if their mother loved them, I continued, and I don't know what to tell them, because I don't know if someone capable of what Jennifer did is capable of love, or if everything, our marriage, our family, our life, was just a performance, a role she played until she found something better. I folded the paper. Your Honor, I'm not asking for vengeance. I'm asking for justice. And I'm asking that my daughters be protected from someone who saw their father's life as an obstacle to remove. I sat down. Derek squeezed my shoulder. Judge Trent looked at Jennifer. Mrs. Hayes, do you have anything to say before I impose sentence? Jennifer stood. For the first time since the verdict, she spoke. Your Honor, I made mistakes. I hurt people I loved, but I never intended to kill anyone. Marcus took words out of context. He manipulated evidence. He turned everyone against me, including my own children. I lost everything because of his obsession with destroying me. If I'd really wanted him dead, he'd be dead. But he's not, because it was just talk, angry talk. And now I'm losing years of my life because my husband couldn't handle me falling in love with someone else. She looked at me. You won, Marcus. You took my children. You turned my parents against me. You made me into a monster in front of the whole world. I hope it was worth it. Judge Trent's expression hardened. Mrs. Hayes, in my 30 years on the bench, I've rarely encountered such a complete lack of remorse. You've just demonstrated exactly why you're dangerous. You've convinced yourself that you're the victim, that your husband's refusal to be murdered is somehow unfair to you. Jennifer's face flushed. You forged documents, Judge Trent continued. You stole money. You plotted murder in detail, including researching how to sabotage vehicle brakes. And you emotionally abused your children by involving them in your fantasy of their father's death. These are not the actions of someone in psychological distress. These are the calculated actions of someone who values money and personal gratification over human life. She opened the sentencing document. On the charge of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, I sentence you to 12 years in state prison. On the charges of fraud, forgery, and identity theft, I sentence you to an additional 6 years to run consecutively. Total sentence, 18 years with possibility of parole after 12. Jennifer's face went white. 18 years? My daughters will be adults. Your daughters, Judge Trent said coldly, will be safe from you. That's what matters. You will have no contact with them until they are 18 years old and can make their own informed choice about whether to see you. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down. Jennifer started screaming. Not words, just sound, raw and animal. The bailiffs moved toward her. As they led her out, still screaming, she turned her head and looked directly at me. Her mouth formed words, no sound, just lips moving. You'll pay. Derek saw it. So did Sarah Chen. So did the court reporter. 12 years in prison. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me just felt tired. Is justice supposed to feel different than this? If you've ever gotten the outcome you fought for, but still felt empty, I'd like to hear about it. After the sentencing, Reyes approached me in the courthouse hallway. Mr. Hayes, there's something else you should know. During the trial preparation, we discovered another bank account Jennifer had, offshore, Cayman Islands. She transferred $63,000 there over 2 years. She was preparing an escape plan even before Cameron came back into her life. What happens to that money? Asset forfeiture. It'll go toward restitution. You'll get back most of what she stole. Not all, but most. I don't care about the money. I know, but the court cares. It's part of justice. Justice. That word again. It sounded hollow. That night, I picked up Lily and Emma from Helen and Richard's house. They'd been staying there during the trial, shielded from the media, protected. We drove home in silence. Then Lily, in the back seat, said quietly, "Is it over?" "The trial is over," I said. "Is Mommy going away for a long time?" "Yes." Emma leaned forward. "Daddy, are we bad people for being glad?" I pulled the car over, turned to look at them. "No, baby, you're not bad people. You're allowed to feel however you feel. Sad, angry, relieved, confused, all of it. All at once. That's okay." "Do you still love her?" Lily asked. "I love who I thought she was," I said. "But that person wasn't real, so I don't know. Maybe I'm mourning someone who never existed." "That's sad," Emma whispered. "Yeah," I said. "It is." We went home, made dinner, mac and cheese from a box because none of us had energy for anything else. We ate in front of the TV, watching a show none of us really watched. After they went to bed, I sat in the living room. The house was quiet, empty in a way it had never felt before. I thought about Jennifer's mouthed words, "You'll pay." And I wondered if she was right. 3 years passed. The days blurred together at first. Court mandated therapy for the girls, therapy for me, rebuilding normalcy, slowly, carefully, like constructing something from broken pieces. Lily and Emma turned 14. They were in 8th grade now, taller, older, still carrying scars but learning to live with them. Helen and Richard came over every Sunday for dinner. We'd rebuilt that relationship. They'd apologized 1,000 times for not seeing Jennifer's truth sooner. I told them it wasn't their fault. No one had seen it. Derek became the girls' godfather officially. He taught them to change a tire, to throw a punch, to stand up straight and speak clearly. The things I was teaching them too, but they needed more than just me. Sarah Chen, the PI, became an unexpected friend. She checked in every few months, sent birthday cards to the girls, reminded me that some people do their jobs because they care, not just for money. And I met someone. Her name was Morgan, a teacher at the girls' school. We met at a parent-teacher conference about Emma's history project. We talked for 20 minutes about the American Revolution and somehow ended up laughing. We'd been dating for 8 months, slowly, carefully. The girls liked her. That mattered more than anything. In May, 3 years and 2 weeks after the Vow Renewal disaster, I drove back to Rolling Hills Vineyard. I hadn't been there since that day. Couldn't. The place held too much weight. But Emma had asked me something a week earlier. "Daddy, can we go back there? To where it happened?" "Why?" "Because I don't want to be afraid of it anymore. I want to make it mean something different." So we went. Me, Lily, Emma, Derek, Helen, Richard, Sarah, and Morgan. 8 people, a small group, family by choice. The vineyard looked the same. The grapevines in neat rows, the valley spreading below, and the oak tree, the massive solitary oak where Jennifer and I had first met 20 years ago, still standing on the hill. We walked to the tree. I carried a burlap-wrapped sapling in my arms, 3 feet tall, young oak, new growth. Emma carried a small metal box, a time capsule we'd made together. Inside were letters we'd each written, to ourselves, to the future, to the people we hoped to become. Lily carried shovels. We stood under the old oak, its branches spread wide, leaves rustling in the wind. "This is where we started," I said quietly. "Your mom and me, 20 years ago. I was 24, she was 22. We met at a friend's party here. We talked under this tree until the sun came up, and I thought I'd found forever." The girls stood close. "Forever didn't work out the way I expected," I continued, "but it brought me you two, and that's the part I wouldn't change. Not for anything." "Are we planting the tree here?" Lily asked, "where the old ceremony was?" I looked at the spot where the altar had stood, where Jennifer had announced I was her backup plan, where I'd exposed her, where everything had shattered. "Yes," I said, "some places deserve new memories." We dug the hole together. All of us took turns with the shovels. The dirt was soft, ready. Emma placed the time capsule in the ground first. "So we remember where we came from," she said, "but also where we're going." We lowered the sapling into the hole, covered the roots with soil, packed it gently. Derek poured water from a canteen. "To new growth," he said. When we finished, we stood in a circle around the small tree. It looked fragile, but it would grow. Emma pulled a folded paper from her pocket. "I wrote something, Dad. Can I read it?" "Of course." She unfolded it. Her hands shook slightly. "Dad, I wrote you something. When the worst thing happened, you didn't fall apart. You protected us. You showed us that love isn't perfect. It's present. You're not our backup plan. You're our first choice, every day." My throat closed. I couldn't speak. "For a long time," Emma continued, "I was angry at Mom, at the universe, at myself for not seeing it. But I'm not angry anymore, or at least not all the time, because I learned something from you. We don't run from hard things. We face them, and we do it together." She looked up at me. "I'm glad you're my dad. I'm glad you chose us, every day." I pulled her close, pulled Lily close too, held them both. "You two are my only choice," I said. My voice broke. Always were. Morgan stood a little apart, respectful of the moment. But Emma reached out and took her hand, pulling her into the circle. "You too," Emma said to Morgan. "Family isn't just blood, it's who shows up." We stood together, 8 people, under the old oak, beside the new sapling. Helen was crying. Richard had his arm around her. Derek wiped his eyes. Sarah smiled, that small, professional smile that meant she was proud of the outcome of a case she'd worked. The wind moved through the oak's branches, whispered through the grapevines below. The valleys spread out before us, green and gold in the late afternoon sun. I thought about Jennifer, wondered if she thought about us, if she regretted, if she'd changed. But mostly I didn't think about her at all anymore. She was a chapter that had closed, a storm we'd survived. "We should make a vow," Lily said suddenly, "a real one, for our family, the one we actually have." "What kind of vow?" I asked. She thought for a moment. Then, We don't choose easy, we choose real. Emma nodded. We don't settle for safe, we choose brave. Derek added, we don't leave each other, not for anything. I looked at the sapling, at my daughters, at the people who'd chosen to stand with us. No backup plans, I said. No second choices, just us. Just us, they echoed. We stood there as the sun lowered toward the horizon. The vineyard turned gold. The oak's shadow stretched long across the grass. 3 years later, my daughters and I are building something new. Not perfect, just real. If you've rebuilt after betrayal or found family in unexpected places, share your story in the comments. Sometimes the people who should have been there aren't, but the people who choose to be there, they're everything. And if you're still in the middle of your own fight, building your folder, gathering your evidence, protecting your kids, drop "We don't settle" and know you're not alone. As we walked back to the cars, Emma turned around one more time, looked at the small oak sapling standing beside the old tree. It looks good there, she said. Yeah, I said. It does. Some places deserve new memories. We drove home, together.